Okay, my outstanding friends, it's going to be a lot of fun today. We're going to be talking about being possessed. Now, what does being possessed mean? Is it all about demons and devils and evil things? Or could you just be possessed by some opinion, basically? Some idea? Has nothing to do with devils or evil. Well, let's talk about that. Who is possessed and who is not possessed? And can you be possessed and still be okay? Or if you're possessed, you've got issues. Well, let's find out. Okay, so let's just think about possessed. Everybody thinks, oh, that guy's possessed. He's got a problem. Well, what does that mean? The definition of possessed means influenced or controlled by something, whatever that something is. It could be an evil spirit, a passion, or even an idea. If you're possessed, you're mad, you're crazed, you just can't deal with reality, basically, is what it appears to me when you become possessed. Reality is blurred. There is no more reality. You are possessed by whatever your possession is, whatever possesses you. Is it an evil spirit? Some just passionate thing that you can't disassociate from? Or is it an idea that is so strong that you feel compelled to push that? So am I possessed? Absolutely. I have found truth, and I have found that everybody else is possessed against truth. Very few. If you're listening, you can understand what I'm talking about. You are exceptional. All right? It's an urgent desire to do or have something. You're just possessed. You got to do it. You got to accomplish something. You know, self-possessed, calm. That's when you get, you just withdraw within yourself. And I don't do that. I'm just sort of a loud guy. And I am possessed, absolutely. Am I possessed by evil? Well, I don't know. You make that determination. Let me show you what I am possessed by. And I will talk about others that are possessed and what I believe they are possessed by. All right, so we know that as far as I'm concerned, people can get possessed just as I am possessed. And why am I possessed? What would cause you to become possessed? Is someone coming over here and turning a little screw in your back and it says, okay, now I'm possessed? Or is it just, is there a reason to become possessed? Is it legitimate to be possessed? Can you justify being possessed? And I say yes, because I am urgently desirous to do or have something done, which is to pay attention to what we can do to save this planet. And I have other people that are possessed to continue to maintain their status and their funding. That's what they're possessed by. Okay, my friends, as you know, I quite often mention the word menticide. What does that mean? It means a systematic, an intentional effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and beliefs, as by use of prolonged interrogation, drugs, torture, etc., and to induce radically different ideas. Now, there has never been a culture on the face of this planet that hasn't said there was dragons, giants, and a great flood, and gods. Now, if you mention any of those things whatsoever in academia, they will fail you and destroy literally your life. So is that equivalent to prolonged interrogation, drugs, torture, to force you, literally force you against God and against the evidence that supports God? And that is what's happening in academia. They are there to destroy your ability to think. They're not there to help you understand things. They are there to brainwash you and destroy God. That's their whole motivation in life, is to go against truth and against the evidence that has accumulated throughout history and is now just splayed all over the place. And it was all written in history. They said there will be false teachers who will deceive you and use you as merchandise. They'll just use you for the money. And if you don't get a piece of paper from them, you're not going to be worth anything, and you're going to have a miserable life. So they say, come, give us your money, and we'll say that you're smart, and then you can go get a job. They're not going to make you smart. They're going to brainwash you, and they will turn you against God. And that is their mission in life, it appears to me. That there's going to be some people that are here to produce evidence and support God and the historical documents and the history, and that is me. And people like me that look at the evidence. They don't just dismiss it. I have just been in some groups on Facebook. Well, I've been destroyed on every group, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. As soon as I make my statements about mud fossils, it's the end of my existence there. they just can't handle it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I showed evidence that supports every single word I'm saying. I showed all of these membranes and tendons and all of the tendon balls, and biology everywhere has turned to stone. And they just cannot handle it. They are brainwashed, and in addition, brainwashing you. So until you say what they tell you to say, you will have a failed life. Academia has become the worst of the worst in this systematic effort to undermine and destroy your beliefs and destroy the reality of the ancient history that we have. And they just made it all up now. It's just all made up. Not a single word of it can be trusted anymore. Not a single word. And that is gratis from all your academics. Okay, so like I said, this is not meant to assault anybody, to demean anyone, but there is two types of minds that work together. They work in conjunction with one another, is the flat earthers and the academics. They have the exact same mind, and they work against each other, work with each other, actually. The flat earthers show that, there's nothing, all of that God stuff is real, and the earth has to be flat, because God said the earth was flat. Which is, the earth is not flat now. It might have been at one time. I can't say. It probably was. It was different than it was now. I'm certain of that. They said there was chaos, and there was all kinds of these gigantic creatures. So something was different. Now, I can't say what. But now there's absolutely zero question. The earth is the size it is. We can see it from the space station. Still, they won't accept that. So now the academics laugh and they say anybody that believes Roger must believe the earth is flat, because that's all the people that hang around him. And I got to be honest with you, it destroyed my research. The flat earthers, even though they're desperately looking for God, they're so desperately looking for it, they've abandoned their mind. Just like an academic hates God so much, they've abandoned their mind. They can't believe that God could possibly exist because they're so indoctrinated. The other people say, there's no way in the world that the things that were written in his Bible could possibly be wrong, because God wrote it, so the world is flat. This is where and they work with each other. The academics love the flat earthers because they support the fact that people that believe in God are delusional. And there's only a certain segment of them that go with this flat earth stuff, and that's delusional. And I'm sorry, it's not meant to be nasty, but I can't have it on my channel. I just can't have it because it's just totally ridiculously untrue. Now, the academics, they won't respond. The flat earthers, they're just, all right, the earth is flat, the earth is flat. I had that thousands of times, and I have to remove those people because it just starts a big argument about something that is ridiculous. So that's number one. Number two is the academics. They just won't respond because they can't respond. So they use the flat earthers against me to say, why should we respond to you? You people are ridiculous. So I can't get them to respond, but they're the ones that are going to be ending up in hell. And so God knows this. He's written about it long ago. It says right here, false teachers and their destruction. This is in 2 Peter 2. In the Bible, it says, there were also false prophets among the people long ago, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresy. There's no God, there's no Jesus Christ, all that stuff is crazy. Denying the sovereign Lord who bought them with his own life, bringing swift destruction on themselves. Many will follow their depraved conduct and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. Absolutely. In their greed, these teachers will exploit you with fabricated stories, ridiculous stories. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them, and their destruction has not been sleeping. Now, that's against teachers. And it appears that none of them, I haven't found a single one in academia, not one, zero, that will address my evidence, because they know that they're going to be destroyed by their peers, and they can't have that. Well, I'd rather be destroyed by a peer than be destroyed by God, because God works in eternal ways. Your peers, take them or leave them, just send them off into the woods, just walk away from them. They're just nonsense. Anyway, God is the one you want to work with, in my mind. No. And it goes on and on and on. There's certain, here's Jude 1:4. For certain individuals whose condemnation was written about long ago have secretly slipped in among you. These are the academics. Give us your money and we'll tell you what you have to say to be considered normal. They slipped in secretly. They are ungodly people. They hate God. They pervert the grace of our God into a license for immorality and deny Jesus Christ, our only sovereign Lord. And I am beginning to think Jesus Christ is as advertised. Well, let me put it this way. Now I feel I'm very certain Jesus Christ was basically as advertised. He could do miracle things, as all the gods could. And there were many gods. There's not just one. See, the Bible and so forth they were also influenced by people not being able to allow their mind to go to where the reality was. So the people that wrote the Bible, there was Enoch, there was all these stories about giants miles tall and all these things in these ancient texts. And they said, no, take that out, take that out. Nobody's going to listen to that. That's just insane. It's crazy. We don't have them anymore. They're not miles tall anymore. This was all pre-flood stuff before God wiped them all off the face of the planet. So they say, don't talk about that stuff because nobody's going to believe it. Who would ever believe something's miles tall? Well, now the evidence is in their face. They can't deny it. Because now it's material. And it was also, Yale University said, there was a pre-flood time where just before the world was completely saturated and flooded with high silicate saturation of very fast, rapid precipitation, global, worldwide, and it preserved all of these soft-bodied creatures. They don't know that that's not soft-bodied. That's a bone. But that bone has converted into stone. The only spot that hasn't is that one little white spot right there. That white spot is still bone. So Yale's wrong. Yale, I can't find anything that they've ever said was right. I got to be honest with you. Not a single word that I have found there is correct. Their idea of global warming is just ridiculous. They don't even realize that the outside surface of our ionosphere, which is where all the extra electrons are. That's what heat is extra electrons. That's where all the heat is being, because we're scrubbing through the universe, spinning as a globe. Flat Earth people, we are spinning as a globe through space, and our outer atmosphere, the ions, are scrubbing like hell and heating up our Earth, and they don't even realize this. And the more heat you get out there, the next layer down gets colder and colder. And they say, well, this layer is getting colder and colder, so that's not the reason. No, It's an opposite. It's a polar. It's a pole. You got this side is your hot side. This side is your cold side. This gets hotter. This gets colder. It's as simple as that. And that's why at the very outside of our atmosphere, it's 2,700 degrees. 2,700 degrees. Way, way, way out in space. Nobody has any reason for that whatsoever. They can't account for that at all. And right below it, it's minus 80 Celsius. I don't know what that is, but it's damn cold. It's like 150 degrees below zero, something like that. And just right above it is 2,700 degrees above zero. And this went to 2,800 degrees. This would go below, get colder down here. It's just one gets hot, one gets cold. And that's what's going on out there. So it's getting colder here, and Yale says, oh, that's good. Now we're all set because it's insanity, absolute insanity what you learn at these universities. And Yale is literally the worst of the worst. You know, they say Harvard is the worst. I don't think so. It is terrible. That's no question whatsoever. But it's not the worst by any means. Yale is absolutely the worst in my mind, and they have no. There's nothing at Yale for any human being that wants to live a normal life and wants to have an afterlife. Yale is the worst place you could possibly be. So consider that when you're thinking about what you want to do the rest of your life, because that place will put you in hell. Okay, so another couple quick quotes here. Here's one here. They claim to, this is Titus 1:16, they claim to know God, but by their actions they deny him. They are detestable, disobedient, and unfit for doing anything good. Here's 3 John 1:4. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Well, you're a very unhappy God right at the moment. Job 41:12-34. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Talking about Typhon in the desert. Apollodorus wrote about that too. And Apollodorus is all the ancient myth of the earth was Gaia. Earth had sex with the sky and produced the giants, 100-handers, titans, monsters, and the dragons fought back. Gods and dragons and monsters and giants, they all fought with each other, and then Earth gave birth to Typhon to kill the gods. And Zeus killed Typhon. This goes on and on. I mean, you can take it or leave it. But I'm showing you the things that I have shown with factual evidence. Now, what I have just done today is I've basically probably destroyed my channel more. You can't get it hardly more destroyed than it is. But the flat earthers will come up and thumb me down. They do it every day, all day long. They thumb it down because I don't want to say the earth is flat. And it's not flat, and I never will say that. So don't come up and start arguments with me about that. It's just, I'm going to have to remove you, because all it is an argument about something that you just dismiss. Everything's a cartoon, everything's CGI, there's nothing but a flat earth. And I know you want to do that because you believe so desperately in God, but God doesn't want somebody believing in him that will believe anything. You just can't just believe anything because it says, somebody told me it said in the Bible somewhere. Well, I don't know what they thought in the Bible, and I don't know if everything they wrote in the Bible is exactly true. I can't, as a matter of fact, I'm sure that there's a lot of things in there that are not exactly true. And you cannot present that to somebody that is a Bible thumper that says, oh, absolutely, not a single word is wrong. And they did write that back then, that you cannot take your own interpretation of the Bible. You have to take it exactly as written. Now, I don't take anything exactly as anything. I make my own determination. Is that right? Could that possibly be? And, some of those things I would say were impossible, but I found the evidence to support them. So now some of the other things that I would consider to be impossible maybe are possible. But you can see the Earth from the space station. So that kind of stuff is not, once you find solid evidence, like solid stone. And as a matter of fact, Jesus said, once you tell the people to be quiet, I mean, I got so many things about this. Jesus said that stones will cry out. So here it is right here. Luke 19:37. As he approached the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of disciples began to praise God joyfully in a loud voice for all the miracles they had seen. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven, peace. We don't have that. We're never going to have that with the academics, never. They say the only way is to have more weapons. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. He said, I tell you, he answered, if they remain silent, the very stones will cry out. And I'm telling you right now, I was given these messages to go in the woods and look for something. I did. I found the giants. I came back, I started searching, and it came up and it said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test. And it went away. And I said, whoa. And I could never find where that came from. These things are for you to see and for others as a test. Right after I found the giants and I started looking, searching, that popped up, never came back, and it was gone. And then after 5 or 6 years of being totally dismissed and destroyed, my life was a mess. Not a single person would talk to me because I was just considered to be insane. Because I got a little vocal because I had the evidence. I had it in front of me. It didn't matter. The evidence didn't matter. It just started nothing but trouble. And that's the problem. If you go outside the box, you're in trouble. Okay, so I have managed to offend a bunch of people, I'm sure, because I don't want to go to hell. Maybe you do. That's up to you. But I now feel that the evidence supports the fact that you have to do what was told to stay out of hell. The rest is up to you. Now, where is hell? Is it a real place? This is from the Greek, and I'm looking back to the Greeks. They wrote basically what I'm considering to be truth, which was mythology. Now, they say the word translates into hell as the Greek term Gehenna. This phrase was first used in the Old Testament to refer to the place of the Valley of Hinnom, a ravine outside of Jerusalem. It was a place of death, idolatry, and even child sacrifice. It was the worst of the worst. That's where they lived. It was a terrible place. Now, King Josiah, however, put an end to these wicked practices, and the Valley of Hinnom eventually became a trash and sewage dump where fires burned continually to eliminate the waste. I'm going to burn up all the bad people. Maybe that's what it refers to. I don't know. Jesus used to use the Valley of Hinnom as an illustration to describe hell, and for good reason. Hell is a place of eternal fire and utter darkness. For many, this seems hard to believe. How could a place with eternal flames also be a place of darkness? But with God, nothing is impossible. Additionally, hell is described in Scripture as punishment, everlasting destruction, and alienation from God for all eternity. It's a place where God's wrath will be poured out onto those who've sinned against Him. And when you say against God, against His rules. Basically, there's rules. It's as simple as that. Given all these truths, it's not hard to see why hell will be a place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Conscious eternal torment is how some have described it. A place of unending suffering and pain, and there is no escape. Will hell last forever? Well, eternal means, yeah, forever. Now, this is the Gospel of Thomas. I get this a lot, too. Oh, you can't read that. You only can read the Bible, and the Bible says the earth is flat, so all of that stuff is nonsense. Well, I say the earth is not flat. Not now. At one time, I cannot say it wasn't. It could have been flat. I have no idea. But now, if you say that the earth is flat, you're just not working with reality. So please, at least don't do it on my channel, because it makes me look silly. And that's what happened in the beginning. It destroyed everything I did. So please don't do that here. Now, Jesus said, let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. Really look. Don't just grab the hold of some phrase and say, oh, that's got to be true. You got to seek. And then you'll find. When you find, you will be troubled. When you become troubled, you will be astonished and will rule over all. I'm not sure what that means, but you have to seek. And you have to not just accept something. I don't care whether it's written in the Bible or not. Seeking is seeking. Now, there's things in the Bible I can't say yes or no. Those I sort of just, I don't really accept or not accept them. I say, let's see if there's any evidence. I look for the evidence. And I found enough evidence to support the majority of the things that were said. So the things that were alleged and there is no evidence for, I have to lean to the side that they're probably more true than not true. However, I do know that they realized, even way, way, way back when they wrote these words about the Bible and all of this stuff, that they had to eliminate some of the stuff that was written because it was too spectacular. Even Jesus, one of the disciples, Jesus took him aside and he says, I'm going to tell you 3 things, and it's going to blow your mind. And it did. And when he went back to the other disciples, they said, what did he tell you? He says, I can't tell you, because if I did, you'd kill me. And Jesus was talking about, he said the earth is a corpse. Number 50. Well, 50 tells us about being the light. We are the light. And that's my other research, is about light. Jesus said, if they say to you, where did you come from? Say to them, we came from the light, the place where the light came into its being on its own accord. The only place is the sun. So we come from the sun. It established itself and became manifest through their image. Somehow their image was of people, but they are gods. They could be anything they want. And the sun is where we came from. We came from where the light comes into being on its own accord. The only place that happens is the sun. Everything else you have to do something to make the light up. The sun just lights up because it's scrubbing through the universe, spinning, just like we are spinning, and we have a tremendous amount of heat buildup, 2,700 degrees on the outer atmosphere, and 80 degrees minus below that. There's a dipole on our outer atmosphere. And one side is the hot side, and the other side is the cold side. It gets hotter on the outside, it gets colder right below. And it's getting colder below now because it's getting hotter on the outside. And Yale comes up with some paper the other day, says, oh, we're not in real bad trouble because the cold is getting colder. Well, that means it's worse, because the cold getting colder means the hot's getting hotter. If the hot is 100 degrees and the cold is minus 100 degrees, this goes to 200 degrees, this goes minus 200 degrees. It's a dipole. One side is the hot, one side is the cold. This gets hotter, this side gets colder. And they look at that as being, oh, well, we're really not in that bad a shape because it's getting colder. No, that means it's getting worse because the heat is surrounding the earth and it's just turning it hard. The atmosphere is supposed to be sort of spongy and moving around, and now it's not. It's turbulent. It's the absolute tremendous turbulence. Huge compressions of atmosphere turns into torrential rains, terrible, terrible floods, all kinds of catastrophe with our weather patterns. And the people that lived where there was very little water in the first place, there's no water at all now. What are they going to do? We're in the worst global disaster that you could possibly imagine. And this is another thing that was done by man. I'm not thinking, let's just pump more oil. And right today, they're saying, let's pump more, let's pump more. The whole earth is collapsing because we've pumped so much out of the earth that there's no more pressure inside the earth. Everything's collapsing. Sinkholes everywhere. They have to pump like crazy to get it out. They used to just poke a hole in the oil and it would go out. They call it a gusher because there was so much pressure on the earth. And it's gone. The earth is collapsing. The outer atmosphere has been swelled up so much by every drop we burn turns into 100 times bigger than it was in the first place. Actually, much more than that. But it's expanding like crazy. That's not supposed to happen. We were never supposed to do this. And we are in such an energy consumption era that the atmosphere is just expanding, and every time it does, it scrubs harder and harder and harder. When that happens, you get more turbulence, more disasters in the weather, and more global warming. So this is not a good start for the new year. I got to be honest with you. It's not looking real good, and I don't think it's going to get better. I don't think it's ever going to get better. Let me put it that way. So we're all going to die, and you go where you think you're best going to be accepted. But I want to be accepted where I'm hoping for a good eternity. And that means you have to be honest and truthful. And you have to work with the truth that's presented to you. Not just say, okay, I'm going to accept whatever it is, whether you accept the Bible words, every single word, the earth was flat and all that. And it might have been at one time. It is not now. These things are not all computer graphic, cartoons in space. There's a space station. They can see the earth. This is not a question. And what happens is those people turn the people that love God and want God into, they think they're insane because they just can't believe what they see with their own eyes. Well, the academics are exactly the same mindset. What they can see with their own eyes, they reject. The flat earthers, what they can see with their own eyes, they reject. The two of them work and they support each other. The flat earthers, they think they're supporting God. They're not. They're supporting the academics who hate God. Because they look at them and they say, look, how can anybody say the earth is flat? Anybody that believes in God and thinks the earth is flat is insane. So the academics, that gives them a boost. And they say, yeah, those people are crazy. They'll believe anything. All those God people, they're nuts. And that's how they portray the people that want God and believe in God and believe in these ancient texts. And again, please don't assault me for saying the earth is round. This has happened. It's just unbelievable how destroyed I was by flat earthers. The ones that want God, and I'm trying to present God, they destroyed me. They literally destroyed me. And academics picked up on that. Oh, they just loved it. That was just fabulous. And they still love it. The other guy's got, all the flat earth people just love him. Well, they do, because they're looking for God. But they have taken up that mindset of, I'm not going to change my mind. I don't care what the evidence is. And that's the failure. And God will not accept that. You have to walk in truth. You're not walking in truth. Where either side, academics, flat earthers, it's not going to work. Your minds have been menticide and brainwashed into believing something. You cannot accept truth and facts anymore. And that's where it all ends. That's where it ends. And then God wants you to believe and lurk and search and think and become a true member of thinking society. And that has not happened. You're indoctrinated one side or the other now. And I don't see too many people that are in the middle that can pick and choose whatever is real. And I do. And sometimes it's good for the ancient texts, and sometimes it's not, because I can find things that, well, not a whole lot, to be honest with you. Most of the stuff in the ancient texts I found was supported. And again, at one point in time, there's probably no question something was different, because the gigantic creatures now, and they say this all the time, the flat earthers, say, well, how are you, it's got to be flat because these creatures are so big. And then the other thing is, they're not telling us how big the earth is. They don't have to tell us how big the earth is. You can see it. You can calculate it. If you do enough research, you understand it. But if you don't do any research, then you just accept whatever somebody tells you. And that happens on both sides. Because the research that's then being done now by places like Yale is just disgraceful. They stole my research. Yale stole my research. I did the research on the giants and the soft-bodied creatures, and then they just wrote a paper on it saying, yes, they're all soft-bodied, but there was no bones, no teeth, no nothing. Absolutely there was. This is from the Great Flood, and that is now what they would consider soft-bodied a creature thing. But it was not soft, it was a bone. That's the last bit of bone right there. There is a taste of bone still left. And they transitioned. And they just changed because they were in this stuff. And like even dragon scales. This was pretty good sized dragon, I'd say. That scale was pretty good size. They're almost identical to the little tiny dragon looking things they have now. The scales I've had people contact me and they say, yeah, they had some kind of dragonish thing, and they come off just like this. Everything is very, very small now. Everything one time was very, very big, and probably the Earth was very, very big. Well, the Earth is not very, very big now. It is the size we can see from the space station. It is not in question. So please, don't assault me for making those statements. I work with facts. I'm a material scientist, but my facts support basically everything in the Bible. Virtually everything. And the ancient texts and the mythology supports virtually everything. But again, way back then, maybe the thing was gigantic. I have no idea. It is the size it is now. And these things are all over the Earth. And I agree with you. There's no way they could have been all walking around on Earth at the same time, having enough to eat and all that. I have no explanations for those things. The only explanation I have now is that they are here, they exist. And I can see them, and I have shown them. And I show them over and over for years now. Since 2015, I've been showing the dragon in the desert. Not a single word from academia. It's just it doesn't exist. As far as they're concerned, it's not there. And I have been so assaulted by them for making these statements, you can't even imagine. And there's no way you can dismiss it. Oops, hold on one second. Technical difficulty. All right, well, I'm going to close it up now. But anyway, there's no way you can dismiss this. You come up here and you look, and these are all the dragon scales running right down his throat, and his throat was cut right down here by Zeus with his great and mighty sword, all written about. Velikovsky recorded all the documentation throughout every culture on the planet. They all had the same story: dragons, giants, great flood. Only 3,500 years ago or so, about 1500 BC, recorded in every culture on the face of the planet. And this was all due to the fact that God had to wipe off all of these gigantic creatures and giants and everything and clean the earth. And he did. And I'm sure there was some good people here too. He wiped them off too. So at some point in time, you have to deal with the totality of things, and sometimes the good are going to be caught up with the bad, as far as I can determine. And at the end of time, or at the end of our time, whenever they decide, let's sort out the bad ones from the good ones, send the bad ones that way and the good ones this way, I want to be on that side. All right? So again, I don't mean to insult anybody. Academics, I'd love to see them just discuss this with me, that's all, and then we can go forward. But this refusal to discuss is really academic fraud. It's fraud. If you look it up, unwanted results have to be examined, even though they're unwanted. And this is as unwanted as you can get in academia. And it is totally unexamined. They refuse to discuss it 100% across the board for many years now. This is not just last week I figured this out, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. This is going on almost 15 years. And it's a disgrace.